Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Put 'em on a Glass podcast, and this is James, your host, the Ghost Set Killer. Today, we are going to be talking ADAS. We're going to be talking about the ADAS network, and I am just going to be shutting my ass up and listening to learn. But we have two guests today. We're going to let you introduce yourselves. Let's go with Andy first, and then Brandon next, and then just start talking, boys. So go
Absolutely.
ahead.
I'm Andy Torado. I'm the co-founder for ADAS Network. I'm happy to be on the podcast. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll go ahead and let Brandon introduce himself as well.
Yep, Brandon Miller here, also co-founder of the ADAS Network. We've been up and running now for just about a year, and we are the one source for ADAS support as well as ongoing education.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I use it. It's a great resource. Get the notifications all the time. But I'm going to turn it over to you because today's host is Brandon and Andy. If I have something, I will chime in and I'll try to bite my tongue and not be ADHD like, hey guys, So go ahead, Brandon.
So just a quick little backstory of where the ADAS network came from and kind of how we got to where we are now. In the ADAS field, there's a lot that you need to learn on your own. I was even seeing posts even this morning where guys were asking about training and where to go and who to get with. And what it really comes down to is a lot of the comments where 95% of it, you're going to have to kind of learn as you go. And that is a humongous gap in our industry. Yes, day one trainings are super important and you learn a great deal in a very short amount of time. But I always like to tell people, hey, you're going to have my number after a training, but you're probably not going to use a whole lot until 90 days. 90 days, that's when the clock kind of hits and you forget pretty much everything that you went over in that first day. And that's standard, that's normal. So, what we created with the ADOS network is essentially a group community where you can get expert level support on demand. You run into a question, whether it's just a pre scan code or, hey, never done a Volvo, never done a Mercedes. What am I getting into? We'll give you the step by steps. And then when you run into trouble and you need service information, not only will we provide it and show you how the service information works, we'll also put it in a way that's easily digestible. For anybody who's not read service information before, it can be pretty daunting and pretty confusing. So we're there to be that kind of bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we offer is very, very unique on its own. There's a lot of services out there, some that have been there before, some that are just emerging. But it's simply put, it is not the same. Now, Brendan mentioned service information, and by no means are we replacing service information. We still encourage everybody to have their own service information, but there's times when even you have your own service information, it's hard to find that data, right? Let alone beyond finding it, as Brandon mentioned, understanding it. So we knew that if we went out to the field only as a customer support venture or as training, we just could not touch the amount of bodies we needed to. We couldn't get the message out there fast enough. We couldn't clear up the smoke, the misunderstandings, which we all know, not just glass industry, collision, automotive. There's a lot of questions and a lot of gray areas. Some as far as what's going on, what's right, what's wrong. OE says this, and by no means are we saying that OE is not valid and not good, but you need to also understand the OE position statements. They will always say that OE equipment is only and is foremost. We're starting to see some changes there, which is pretty impactful, is pretty industry changing because we're seeing them now endorse some of the aftermarkets, which was something that was never done in the past. So making sure that we understand that and how that works and how we can get the job done is the next most important part. As Brandon mentioned, A1 training focuses on you learning how to use your tool, not necessarily making you an ADAS expert, making you proficient on ADAS. It is simply, you got your tool, let's unpackage it. Here's how we do it. Here's some examples. The other downside to training, and once again, I'm not bashing training whatsoever, just the reality is you can only train so much in 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 48 hours, let alone a week. We could have a whole week boot camp on ADAS and you'll return back 2 weeks later and you'll have a car or a scenario that was not covered in training. It's just impossible. So we created ADAS Network to make sure that we can keep those gaps filled. We continued pushing that continued education, as Brandon mentioned. So outside of the community network and the community forum, where we help on things as simple as pre-scans, which is like step one. We get somebody who's never done this before, what does this mean? And we have different lingo when it comes to different manufacturers. Then you get into the aftermarket translations because we know, these tools come from different places and they get translated. So being able to understand that, dissect that is really where our focus is. One odd thing that we usually get asked is like, do you also handle training? Our background, interesting enough, Brandon and I both worked for some of the equipment manufacturers, diagnostic manufacturers, and we handle training. We also handle training other under ventures. I still do um, training myself on an independent level. ADOS Network does not do training directly, and I'll explain myself. We understood that once again, we just couldn't touch enough bodies fast enough. So what we've opted to do in year one, so if you've never heard of ADOS Network, there's a very good reason for that. We have not done any marketing whatsoever, which is odd for any companies. Hey, you've been around for almost a whole year. Now comes the years like you have not done any marketing. It's like, no, not really. We've teased things here or there, but not true marketing. Is we focus on year one was building the partnerships and relationships with all of the bodies and companies that mattered, right? As far as getting their backing, getting NASDAQ endorsed as well, the National Automotive Task Force Alliance. So all these things were fundamental to what we're doing. It wasn't just a talking head. It's just not two random guys just putting something out there on the web just to to charge you something. That was not the focus. So that said, we also collaborate with training entities. So some of our partners and sponsors, Kaizen is a really good partner of ours as well that offers training. I'm sure you're very aware of Shauna and her group. So understand that that's what we decided to focus on is making sure that we're feeding into those bodies that are also handling training on a national or international level to make sure once again that that word and the message is being put out there correctly.
Beautifully said. What's your next talking point, Brandon? Because I've been on the network. I love it. The fact that you guys have directions to go for the training, for just everyone who's getting into it. I encourage you to jump on the ADAS network because I've seen both of you in the comments just really dissect an issue that a technician is having that they just can't get their brain wrapped around. And then and then I remember one time I reached out to Brandon and and I was inside of the vehicle and it's like, oh yeah, so what's your live data say? And I'm like, son of a bitch, like why couldn't I see that? And then like, the Mercedes, you have to lock the doors and you have to wait 10 minutes for, to roll. And it's like, I know these things, but like in the heat of the moment, he was like, because you're immersed in it. And that was like some of the best advice that I had ever received from any part of training or any, because he was helping, but any kind of mentorship was like, remove yourself from the situation. And I've watched you guys in
Mhm.
the comments just do that. And then you could actually watch the comments go. And then it's like, oh, and then they start to come around. So you are educating. You might not be training, but you're educating on how to the next time. Hopefully they don't have that same problem. So turn it back over to you,
Well,
Brandon.
and that's a huge thing whenever we're providing support. It's yes, we could just throw the silver bullet at you and you'll have no idea how we got there. And it's just, oh, well, this worked. So good. I'm on to my next job. But then you're going to keep running into that same scenario. You're going to keep running into, hey, got a Honda VSA code. What does this mean? Should I continue moving forward? It's okay. Let's do the full diag steps. We're going to go through it. Check here, check here. Where are the codes? Is it in the ABS? Is it in the IDAS? Are there dash lights? Do we have wheel speed sensors that are sending data? All that information compiled together gives us the response of, hey, this is not a big deal. This is freeze frame data. We can check and see when this took place. Or, yo, you got stopped. You got dash lights. This camera might be dead, might be damaged. That's a huge portion in the glass industry right now that people sometimes unknowingly just jump in. They get into repetitions of, okay, plug in, pre scan, talk to the customer, get this, get my glass ready, make sure everything's good to go. And then they never read their pre scan. Then guess what? We swap the glass, we put it in. We're blaming brackets, we're blaming this, we're blaming that. And it's like, no, man, you should have never started in the first place. Like you need to understand Free scans are there for a very, very important reason, and it all comes back to CYA. If you blow past it, you're throwing yourself right under the bus. And depending on which insurance company you're dealing with, or if this is a customer pay job, company's going to take it on the shins. And, everyone makes a mistake. That is totally normal fact of life. There's no getting around that. But if you make that mistake more than once, more than twice, more than three times, it's now a habit that companies just cannot handle. So giving the guys in the field that extra leg that, hey, check with us. If you got a question, ask it. There is no such thing as a dumb question in this because there's no formal book. There's no, hey, everyone knows X, Y, and Z. It's like everyone doesn't know that. There's new stuff every single day. So having that outlet, having that support structure is really, really helping our members.
Well, one thing I'll interject there, Brandon, we had a recent scenario that Brandon was actually involved in directly related to lingo. So when it comes to insurance companies and when it comes to scrubbing software, with the introduction of more and more AI is a good thing, and it could be an absolute negative to any business. It's kind of a double-edged sword right now. It's too new. It doesn't know what it doesn't know, so it knows less than what a technician knows or a business owner knows. That's the one thing that a lot of people don't get. It's like, well, I would just go to ChatGPT. I'll ask them. Well, they'll spit out a lot of verbiage, but it didn't give you any direction. So that's the other part. So one thing that we pride ourselves with ADAS Network is you're talking to an actual human. You're talking to people who are involved or have been involved some way in the ADAS field. My personal background comes from automotive diagnostics, A to Z. I still, to this day, even do a lot of corporate training and corporate business development. I still do technical training. I still go out there and talk oscilloscopes and scan tool usage and, what we call the 3% diagnostic approach. Brandon himself comes from the glass industry and has handled training on that front under multiple sides as well. So understanding that, breaking that through, AI just has not accomplished that just yet. You need to have somebody who understands, number one, where you are as a technician, if you're a technician. The next part, where you are as a business owner, because there's multiple facets to this, right? Are you a dispatcher? So, um, Brandon, you want to share the at least, and maybe not verbatim and put names out there, but what happened as far as one of your customers getting something, um, I wouldn't say not approved, but back flagged because of AI and how it interpreted the gray wording that a lot of the OE white paper has.
Are you referring to the Toyota situation I ran into? Okay. So this actually happened in my personal business. So on top of the ADAS network, I also do local calibrations here outside of St. Louis. And I was doing a job for a shop that I've done a lot of work for, insurance company that we don't do a lot of work for. And they're not a DRP, all things the same. Well, when it comes to Toyota blind spots, there is no hard line written one way or another. If the bracket is removed, hard line, yes, we absolutely have to do it. But there's also verbiage in there that states if the bumper is repaired, replaced, if there's any rear end damage, you have to verify that the systems function properly. What is the best way to verify that a system is functioning properly, especially when it comes to anything radar? That's to calibrate it, ensure that it's within spec. You can set up measurements, you can set up everything. Calibration is always going to be king. That shows, yes, all work was done. There's no additional body damage. There's nothing structural that needs to be addressed. Well, their AI insurance scrubbing software, the insurance's scrubbing software, came back and said, nope, hardline, unless it's taken off, there's nothing you need to do. Provided the documentation, showed them, hey, we had to verify because there was rear end damage. The bumper was not only repaired, it was replaced, it was painted. Entire document about thickness of paint, ensuring sensors function properly. They immediately kick back. Nope, unless you have something that says that just bumper removal, we're not paying it. It's like, well, you know what? Err on the side of caution. Totally understand that point. I don't agree with you, but I understand why you're stating that. Went back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I just took it on the chin and said, hey, customer, insurance is not willing to pay for this. This had to be done to ensure the safety of your vehicle. And we worked it out with the customer from there. But when it comes to documentation, and this is my fear of AI, is whenever it comes to that gray area, common sense is no longer used. It's just not. And it is very hard zeros and ones programming. The issue with that is you are now relying strictly on, oh, well, it didn't specifically state it, so we shouldn't do it. Even though there's 10 other documents stating, yes, you really should verify this. This needs to be checked. And their response was, oh, they're just referring to a visual
Oh, he
inspection. It's
froze.
like
Yeah, I was that was
a
froze up
visual
on me.
inspection to ensure that a radar is aimed properly and functioning. Got it. Okay. Well, you have yourself a great day because that's just amazing.
So that was the funny part because they said it only required a function test, and their definition, their interpreted definition of a function test was a test drive. Oh, you should have just driven the vehicle and just verified that it worked. Now, yeah, that's the
Just
function
back
test.
up real close. You know, there's a pole behind you. Just put the bitch in reverse and make sure she stops. That's a very good point of the zeros and ones, and there's going to come something that the OE writes to cover their ass, which then goes into the AI software, but isn't practical in the real world. Like Brandon was talking about paint thicknesses and everything. I want to just real quick jump back to a story about the pre-scan. This has been a while ago. But there was a technician that I worked with, and he was like, I did not do anything to this car, and it won't calibrate now, and there's a bunch of things. And I was like, well, did you read the pre-scan? Oh, yeah, yeah. I said, well, obviously you didn't, because the pre-scan, there was 4 codes. After you did the windshield, and then it wouldn't calibrate, and we did a post-scan, there's now 32 codes. You obviously done something. Like there's something there. And then it was something silly that, like, it wasn't silly, it was actually very neglectful, and I'm not going to go into the details in case they are listening. But it was something just completely off the like off the wall. But just looking at that pre-scan, did not even look at the pre-scan to be like, oh my god, I got all these codes now, like it won't calibrate. And I went ahead and did a post diagnostic scan. It's what There's a huge discrepancy. The eye obviously did some, so let's look forward into it. Nope, just shipped it down the road. And then when the customer came back, I had those 2 pieces of paper. So it's not quite the AI thing, but it is like, make sure that you're doing your functionality pre-drive test, you're reading your pre-scan, and make sure you're doing your functionality post-drive test to make sure it's all operating correctly. Because but going about your AI point, I apologize.
No, you're good. And then kind of adding to what you have. You've been, in the network. You've seen how we drive through. So you'll notice, especially when I'm commenting, right? We always do the 101s. Did you test drive the vehicle? Was it functioning before? How was it before you did it? And then, right, then what does the pre-scan say? The other part that we also focus on has been one of the biggest challenges is, yes, the software companies, equipment companies did ADAS calibrators and glass you a huge favor, especially since you're just thrown into the industry without giving formal training, formal education on it, where they built the ADAS identifiers, right? Oh, these are ADAS systems. The downside to that is that it's put blinders on a lot of our businesses. So, oh, I don't have any ADAS codes, so I'm good to go. But you have ECM codes, TCM codes, all-wheel drive system codes, ABS codes. I mean, steering wheel, electronic power steering codes. All these systems interact with what we call in the industry sensor fusion, right? And any of these systems could potentially block the calibration one, or you could do the calibration, but then it'll block the function. So it may let you calibrate, but it won't work afterwards, right? I know Brandon will vouch for this. A lot of what we do drives especially into that segment. So once again, when you think about training, there's just not enough time in a 1-day training to cover all of this. So I don't hold it against any of the training entities or any of the trainers. You can only do so much in 1 day. And that's if you get a 1-day training. There's places and teams that I've seen that do a half a day. They get an absolute crash course. And if you don't really know what you don't know, you're not able to get much further than that. So yeah, just kind of adding on to your subject on the pre-scan and how important and communication. I'll also add we focus a lot of our conversation, which most of your users are going to be calibrators. We do focus on a lot of that, but ADAS network isn't there only for the technician. We're there also for the business owner. So we understand that outside of just, hey, we have these issues, this is not calibrating. We want to make sure we're that resource for them. But if you have a business owner, well, how do I get my quickest ROI? How do I do this? Or you're a glass shop. Hey, I heard about something about building a separate LLC, or hey, I have an insurance doesn't want to pay me right because I'm not in their program, or I'm not subletting it out. So those are other topics and things that we do cover as ADAS network. ADAS network is about ADAS in general. It doesn't align itself with any manufacturers, any brands, any equipment. We work with them all. We speak with them all. In the back end, we have a lot of conversation with a lot of these equipment manufacturers and some of the OE vehicle manufacturers as well. We just have been very blessed. That's the way I can put it, to have this access and have these kind of communications. So we actually work as a liaison for the ADAS industry, and that's something that we know that we bring to the table. Once again, we haven't done any marketing in this year, so nobody knows about that. But definitely, this is a way to go ahead and put it out there, make sure people know that it's not just a blanket corporation. Hey, we're going to do this and just talk. There's a bunch of Facebook groups for that, but we all know how far those goes too. It's a very, very different from being in a face group than being in something that's professionally mediated. You know yourself that we require profile pictures. You have to verify your business. So it's not just a ghost in the wind coming in. Oh, I feel, I got hurt yesterday, so I'm going to troll every comment that we have. It's something that we absolutely moderate. So we make sure we keep it professional. Um, I'll also bring it, since we're talking about the different facets, because ADAS Network is multifaceted, and for being a new company, that is unheard of most times. But if we can't solve your issue, or you don't have the time to, hey, I just don't have the time to type through this forum and get a chat going on this way, there is an option to request a ticket. We're a remote expert. We'll go ahead and call you, walk you through it, enter your tool. We'll navigate it. We'll be right there, and it is not limited to any specific manufacturer once again. So we've had great success on that front as well. And last thing I'm going to mention out, and I'll give it back to Brandon, but the response times. So that's one thing, is like, what's different between you and Facebook and other companies that are launching their new platforms out there? Well, one of the major differences is response time. So when it comes to a forum post, those forum posts don't go more, I mean, I say 10 minutes, giving it a lot of time. I know it's much less than that. Those get responded to very, very quickly. But we've seen some other cases where a post is put out and it's been 2 hours later, a day later, you get any response. And when you're in the heat of the trenches and you need help, time is an absolute essence. Time is money, right? The customer doesn't care. The customer doesn't understand. Some of them are a little more forgiving, but once again, you need help now. So that's the one major difference that we have, and is part of our mission statement, right? We want to make sure that we have the ADAS professional and those calls are getting immediate. We have a 10-minute pledge, but I can tell you right now, and that's on the tech support side. Right now, they're less than 5 minutes. To tell you the truth, most of those tech requests are being responded to in less than 2 minutes. They're almost immediate. It goes into our dashboard. We then delegate as far as who's going to go ahead and get that, as far as who's going to need that tech support. When you put the ticket in, you're saying what year, make, model, what tool you're using. So the person who's going to call you knows the vehicle you're working on, and they know what tool you're using, know how to use it. So you're not going to get somebody who has never touched that vehicle, never touched that tool in their life, going, well, we're going to figure this out together, because that's not the help that you need. You're also not going to get somebody who was flipping burgers last week. And oh, by the way, I'm your tech expert today. Did you turn the computer on and off? So
Well, and speaking to that, another big thing that we really pride ourselves on is that response time. But like I said before, we're not just going to give you the silver bullet of here's your answer, go. You know, what we've seen over the years is a guy will ask a relatively vague question, and people come back and throw him. It's like, if only you would tell us what you're doing. If only you would do this. Like, just ask him. Just ask the question. If you need to know, is this radar camera? Ask. Like, the first response is normally going to be, all right, give me some more details, or just so I'm clear on the situation. This is what we have going on. Did you already do X, Y, and Z? So then it gets their brain moving, right? And to circle back on your point, it is very difficult when you're stuck on a vehicle and your brain goes to mush. You're thinking about the next job. You're thinking about your route. You're thinking about the rest of the day. You're thinking about your kids got basketball practice tonight. We got to get going. Trying to troubleshoot with all that going on, it's never going to work out successful for you. You know, if it does, it'll take a lot longer. So being that calming voice that could come in, hey, take a step back. Did we do X, Y, and Z? Okay. I see our issue right here. Camera's not snapped in all the way. Target placement is incorrect by OE standards. All those things really come into play. And it's just oh, geez. Okay. Yep. Appreciate it. We'll see you. It's like, no problem. Glory aboard.
Yeah, I've been there. Obviously, we talked about at the top of the hour. So this is in respect for everybody's time. I know we're busy. I do appreciate you coming on today because of the curveball I threw at you guys yesterday. But this is the tech tip video series for everybody. I've done like a cold knife one. I did the wire tool one, but being part of this ADAS network, I have used it. It's a great resource. I believe in it. And that's why I invited you guys on because of, like Brandon just said, I was in the middle and I was just mushed up and I'm like, okay, something's not right. And it's like, instead of just throwing my hands up, send it to the dealership, because we know that that goes awry a lot of times because they're immediately blaming the person who did the repair because they didn't get paid for that repair. So they immediately did it's immediate, like, oh, well, it's the repairer's fault. So like they'll jump in. Brandon's taking control of my tool before because I'm just like, hey, like I'm really, so then it's like option two. And then, Andy's asking me questions and going about it. And then he jumps in. He's like, oh, well, it's boom, boom, boom. But this is how I got to boom, boom, boom. This is how I got to where this is. Watch the tablet, ask questions as I'm, maneuvering your tablet and what I'm looking for and what you should be looking for. So it was a learning opportunity for me in every sense of the word. Every time I've called, every time I've, posted. I don't post a whole bunch. I've got, things going on. But I do read the ones that come up on the email. Dude, the emails are like one of the most refreshing things in the world because it like it shows you the vehicle and it's like, oh my goodness, I had a problem with that. Like, so then you're immediately like clicking on to see, the notification or whatever. So anybody tech tip for this month is get yourself on the ADAS network. It is definitely worth any bit of time or any bit of effort that you have to put into it because you're going to learn. It's going to be beneficial. It's going to help your business. Even like Andy said, the business portion of it, billing insurance companies, how to go about, setting things up, and those are resources that we just don't have readily available at our fingertips. So I'll let you guys end on the note. Give us a little bit more nuggets, and then don't hang up though because we got to let everything upload. But in respect for your time, go ahead and drop some because you're welcome to come back on anytime. You name it, we'll make it happen. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. The one tech tip that I would definitely give out is one, pre-scans are super important, but also being up on TSBs and checking in on them. That is a huge point. So I actually have one pulled up here for anybody to look up. We have TSB number 23-2040. This is through Ford. This is going to be for IPMA software updates. If you guys have not gotten bitten by this, you will absolutely run into this in the field. So I want you to have this document ready to go. Excuse me. What'll happen is there'll be no codes on the camera beforehand. You'll replace the glass. Even if you go with an OE part, does not matter. The part is not a necessity here. What happens is you will set that camera to learn. You'll drive it. Everything will be great. It'll go through. Your tablet will hit 100%. Calibration successful. The dash lights will never change. It will require an update. It'll give you a code. I'll just give it to you here. Charlie 1001:78 is one of the numerous codes that would be available. The only way to get this to complete is to use FDRS software and FDRS or Ford VCI, and some of them can take upwards of 4 hours. So
Or
knowing
IDS if you have
going
direct
in,
IDS.
what's that?
Or Ford IDS as well. FDRS and IDS are both currently applicable.
But I've seen a number of guys get stuck on this, and then 3 hours later, they're throwing up their hands there. Hey, I don't know. It's like there's nothing you could have done. There's absolutely nothing you could have done with your aftermarket tool. It's not a slight on you. It's not a negative on you. Ford required a software update. Has to be done.
My tech tip for nugget for the close is clearing codes does not get rid of the problem.
Really?
I know we laugh at it all the times, but we know it happens. Okay. And here's the deal I have to share is that just because you cleared a code and it didn't come up immediately doesn't mean the problem's still there. Okay. We have codes that sometime will return back 2 months later. I'm sure you've heard of this. Like, I did work on this and it was okay. 2 months later, it came back. Did it happen to be one of the codes that you had in your pre-scan? Just curious. Yeah, how did you know? Well, the problem with this is that codes do not generate on a one-time occurrence. We have a couple that will, okay? We have a couple that will, but the majority of the codes, first of all, we barely get codes for ADAS to begin with. That's the first thing we need to address, right? So no codes, no lights, no problems is not a thing. Okay, that's a subject for a different day, a different day. But if you do have a code, I've looked at the live data and looked at some background programming information, and I've seen as much as 8 drive cycles before a code sets. Now, drive cycles is an interesting subject because, like, well, what's a drive cycle? So it's not you take the car, you drive around 8 blocks, or you take the car, you turn this key on and off 8 times. The drive cycles are going to be individually dependent of what criteria the engineer set, which means that a drive cycle for a forward camera versus blind spot versus automatic stop, anything like that is going to be different. Okay. So you have to satisfy that. So it can take 2 months very easily to hit the 8 drive cycles before we satisfy everything. And lo and behold, the problem's still there. So the incorrect approach of, well, I'll clear the codes, and if the codes they were intermittent faults, so okay, I'll just clear the codes and the problem's gone, should not be approached in that fashion. Is it one thing that we at the end deem it could be an option? Absolutely. I'm not going to say it's not, but it should not be the initial approach. Even if it says intermittent faults, you mentioned the live data. That's one thing that we always approach, right? Say, hey, what does the live data say right now? What is it doing? Your test drive, what's functioning? How is the vehicle reacting, even though the code may say stored intermittent, or you may be lucky enough to not get a status at all. It just says CMDTC. Talking once again about Ford and Mazda, for example, it says, what's the status? Well, it says there's a code. History, present, current, have no clue. So understanding that there's drive cycles in codes, that erasing them is not the answer. You can actually hurt yourself. That Toyota is another really great example. Actually, not wasn't that one. It was a Honda, where previous technician erased codes, erased the pre-scan, completely deleted the file. They needed to They needed to replace the camera. It could have been covered under insurance, but because they deleted all of the history and deleted all of their proof, insurance will no longer cover it.
Wow. That's a
Thought he was
stake
doing the
in the
right thing.
that's a stake in the heart, bro. Like that's a stake in the heart. Like you dude, you could have gotten out of this, but the fact that you did that is, man, there's nothing that'll make a technician feel lower. A boss come to you and
Yeah,
like,
bro.
hey, they definitely would have you know, they definitely would have, covered it, but because you did X, Y, and Z trying to get this to go through, then it did this. So that's a
They knew enough
good
to get
tech
dangerous.
tips. Yep.
Yeah, they knew enough to get dangerous. One tidbit I'd like to share at the moment of this recording, just to let you know how far ADAS is going, because I know we focus on the glass industry here. This weekend, I am actually that's why we have a dead stop, right, and we're kind of rushing through this. I'm flying out to New Orleans, where they have the Mobile Air Climate Association conference. So you would think, what does air conditioning have to do with ADAS? We're actually educating on a actually international level. We have people flying in from other countries as well on ADOS and the importance, giving these tidbits, right? This insight, just so you can understand that that's also a potential customer. Wink, wink for those business owners, right? when they're having to remove condensers or radiators, that front bumper cover has to come off. I'm watching this, but well, it's not a bumper cover anymore. So it's a front fascia, right? So that's why the ADAS topic is really widespread and going into multiple industries. So we'll be there this weekend. Presenting to the mobile air climate community, along with the EPA, as far as explaining, the relevance and importance and things that we're seeing, not just as ADAS network, but just as subject matter experts.
Beautiful. Well, when you listen to this, it'll actually be after that weekend. So because of when it comes up, but at least you get that information and know that these gentlemen are not just sticking to status quo. They are going to learn. They are going to educate other parts that we will have to work with hand in hand. And with that being said, I thank you, gentlemen, for your time and just everything you do for the industry. And I want to wish everyone a great day.
Be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, did I hit stop? There we go.